If you've ever tried picking up a new language, you've definitely asked yourself this question. Why are some just so much harder than others? Well, today, we're going to figure out which languages take the absolute longest to learn, and more importantly, why.
Okay, so let's just dive right in. What is the hardest language out there for a native English speaker to tackle? I mean, is it the crazy writing, the sounds you can't even hear properly, the grammar that just breaks your brain? The answer, you'll find, is not nearly as simple as you might think.
To get some real-world data on this, we can actually look at how the U.S. State Department trains its diplomats. They literally group languages by how hard they are, and wow, the difference is staggering. Get this, they figure it takes about 24 weeks of full-time, heads-down study to get good at Spanish. But for Arabic, Mandarin, or Japanese, try 88 weeks. That is more than 3 times as long. And that brings us to the most crucial point of this whole thing. A language isn't difficult just because it's complex. I mean, think about it. Any baby can learn any language on Earth perfectly. No, the real difficulty for an adult comes from how different that new language is from the one you already speak. It's all about the linguistic distance between them. So to really wrap our heads around this idea of distance, we're going to break it down into 4 key challenges that pretty much every language learner has to face. You've got the script, the sounds, the words, and of course, the grammar. So let's kick things off with the most obvious hurdle. Challenge number 1, the script. This is literally what you see on the page, right? And for an English speaker, just moving beyond our familiar ABC alphabet can be a massive first step. And for some languages, this is a truly monumental step. Take Chinese, for example. You need to memorize something like 2,000 different characters just to be able to read a newspaper. And even then, you're probably still going to be reaching for a dictionary. Japanese uses many of these same characters, which just adds another whole layer of difficulty. But here's the thing, a different script doesn't automatically mean it's impossible. On the one hand, yeah, you've got the massive memorization project of Chinese. But on the other hand, you have a system like Korean Hangul. It's so logical and so brilliantly simple that it's famous for being incredibly easy to learn. It really proves that not all new scripts are created equal. Okay, let's move on to our second challenge, the sounds. This one is all about retraining your ear and, your mouth to hear and make sounds and little distinctions that just plain don't exist in English. A tiny, tiny change in sound can completely flip a word's meaning. For instance, in Hindi, how you say the T sound is absolutely critical. If you say moti with the tip of your tongue curled back, it means fat. But if you say moti with your tongue right up against your teeth, it means pearl. You get that wrong and you're in for a very confusing conversation. And then you've got tonal languages. In Mandarin Chinese, the same little word ma can mean mother, hemp, horse, or a curse word, all depending on if your voice goes up, down, or stays flat. Mandarin has 4 main tones. Cantonese, it has at least 6. For an English speaker, that's like learning a whole new musical dimension of language. All right, let's talk about challenge number 3, the words. With this one, the difficulty often just boils down to a pretty simple question. Does this new language share any family history with my own? You see, a lot of European languages, English included, are basically distant cousins. They all come from a common ancestor language we call Proto-Indo-European. And because of that shared DNA, there's a huge overlap in vocabulary. So if you know the Spanish word for water is agua, it's not a huge leap to guess the Italian aqua or see the connection to our word aquatic. These connections are like free cheat codes. But when you try to learn a language from a completely different family, say Arabic or Chinese, all those free clues just vanish. There's no shared history. And that means pretty much every single new word has to be learned from total scratch. And that brings us to our final and, let's be honest, often most dreaded challenge. The grammar. We're talking about the deep, fundamental rules and structures that tell you how to build a sentence in the first place. And here again, the range of difficulty is just huge. On one end, you have Arabic, which is famous for its incredibly complex grammar. It's full of prefixes, suffixes, even changes that happen inside the word. For a lot of learners, this is the hardest part. But then you have Mandarin Chinese, which has almost no word endings at all. This is actually why some people say it's one of the easiest languages to learn how to speak, even if it's one of the hardest to learn how to write.
Foreign grammar is tough because it makes you think in brand new ways. For example, in English, we have singular, like one thing, and plural for many things. Simple. But a language like Arabic also has something called the dual number. It's a special form for nouns and verbs that you only use when you're talking about exactly two of something. It's a whole new category of thought you have to get used to.
So, we've looked at the script, the sounds, the words, and the grammar. Now, let's put it all together and see what it takes to earn the title of the linguistic Iron Man. At the end of the day, the overall difficulty of a language for an English speaker is really just the sum of its parts. How different is its script? How different are its sounds, its words, its grammar? A language might be pretty easy in one area, but a total beast in another. So when a language comes along that throws a massive challenge at you in all four of those categories, I'm looking at you, Japanese and Mandarin, mastering it is an absolutely incredible achievement. As our source material puts it, it's the sign of a true linguistic Iron Man. So, you see, difficulty isn't really a barrier. It's just a measure of the distance you have to travel. Which means the only real question left is, what linguistic challenge are you going to choose?